All right, what's going on, guys? This is Cas and Omeika, and today we're just kicking it. Welcome back. This is episode 4. Can you believe it? Good morning, Omeika. How are you?
Good morning, Cass. I am well. Good morning, listeners. How
Well,
are you guys?
there you go. Yeah. So we're just talking backstage about how crazy of a week it has been, and I was so I'm going to share behind the scenes. I hope Omeika doesn't mind. So this is a real transparent podcast. We're just really kicking it. So this is our second attempt at this episode, and I'm not going to tell you why the last one was a struggle, right?
Definitely.
But after it was canceled, it was just been a roller coaster, and I was just letting them we can know. Like sometimes we're, especially as entrepreneurs and people who are leaders in our families, like constantly just putting out small fires. But I'm
Yes.
glad to be here this morning. And Omeika, how are you?
I am well. Yeah, yesterday definitely was an epic fail. So
Oh,
I'm
okay.
glad we had the opportunity to pivot
Right,
and take care of those small bushfires.
right.
And so we are here today ready to talk and just kick it,
Let's kick it.
are ready to give our listeners what they've been waiting for.
There you go. And it's funny too, just in the spirit of transparency, I was telling Omika yesterday my show notes were not ready. And I have a couple of pop culture things, but I didn't really have a full format for the show. And I think this is actually a good place to start from a content creation piece as well as being an entrepreneur. You're
Mhm.
going to have rough weeks, and sometimes you're not prepared for that one single event. But I think the lesson here is always being prepared, like overall, like knowing what your talk tracks are,
Yeah.
knowing what the cause of your business is, like if you have a true cause in regards to wanting to create some type of results for some type of client, knowing what that is. Sometimes it doesn't matter. And then third, again, just speaking about content creation, it's super easy. I know people are afraid to jump on video. I get it. Like even having doing video for so many years and being a video like coach, I get it. Like if you're scared to go on video, and I get it. Like if you're like, hey, you know what, something comes up, and you know what, that's a good excuse to just cancel out and not create that content.
Yeah.
But not being prepared, having that struggle, having things pop up, not being ready all the time doesn't mean that you should not create that content, shoot that video, go live for the first time. So, if anything, that's a good way to start off. One of the quotes that comes to mind is 80% done. 80% done is still better than 100% like perfect and undone. Right?
Absolutely.
So, like, sometimes we'll record stuff and put it in Drive or Dropbox, whatever, and it's sitting there because there's like one little imperfection or whatever. And
Absolutely.
people won't put it out.
I'm
Like,
good with
yeah. So just go ahead and put it out. What are your thoughts on that, though?
that. So definitely agree with you 100%. And yesterday just kind of like brought me back to a place when I first started my business.
Yeah,
And the first time, when I was getting ready to hit that record button.
yeah.
And so it just kind of brought me back there. But I can honestly say I've grown in that space a lot
Mhm.
because I didn't have that anxiety that was attached to it
Right.
in the beginning. And then just kind of going through trial and error. Sometimes when I get over myself and put the content out anyway, it
Hmm.
comes through more authentic
Hmm.
than if I had had everything together.
Right.
So, definitely agree with you 1,000%. And to anyone who's listening, just do it. You can do it scared, you can do
Yeah.
it uncomfortable, just do it
Hmm.
because your audience is not looking for perfect. They're just looking for you to authentically show up. And whatever that looks like, whatever that sounds like, just
Right.
do.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I love it. Yeah, you hit it on the head. I think the piece there too is just being authentic. And there's one thing that you said that really stood out was you're not jumping on video for you. It has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with the people that you're trying to help.
Yes.
And once you could, you know, become less selfish, and I know that's a weird word to use, but if you're and I get it, like especially for the ladies that are listening, I get it. Your hair should look good. You should be, presentable for the fellas. Oftentimes, if you got to shave or clean up, I get it. But if you could put yourself aside and just think about like the value that you have to add to your customers, it's still going to be scary, but it's going to be less scary for sure. When you just think about, hey, what do I need to put out to the world today, to the universe today, in order to help? So let's talk about the week too. So I know you can't get into specifics,
Mhm.
but just generically for our listeners, in addition to not being prepared all the time, showing up on video sometimes, and having to pivot, the thing that a lot of business owners struggle with is just the ebbs and flows, like weekly, right? And
Yeah.
some of us are working 9 to 5s, and we have to balance the 9 to 5, or the steady income with the entrepreneurial income. Like
Yes.
what this is going to be an opportunity for you to almost coach yourself, right? As you help others listening. Because the one thing I learned about coaching was you don't have to be at the very pinnacle of where you need to be a coach. You
Yeah.
just need to be 1 or 2 steps ahead of
Yeah.
somebody else, right? So I know that you're not where you want to be quite yet. So I get that. But for the people that are just starting out and they're like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna just quit. Like I can't do this. This is just too much. Like, the 9 to 5 is going crazy. I got the 2-year old, pulling on my skirt tail. Like my husband or my wife has, all these tasks for me to do, right? Because that's part of the commitment.
Yeah.
The world is just crazy all around us. Like, how do you balance?
Honestly, so my daily routine in the morning when I wake up, the
Right.
first thing I do is read my Bible.
Nice.
And I might go to the gym, or I might just have like a moment or at least 30 minutes of solitude before I start anything with work or my business.
Right.
And I always tell my team, because they wonder why I wake up so late. I said, well, actually, I wake up at the same time every day, which is
Right.
really, I just don't get up and get my day started and interact with other people until I've taken care of myself.
I like that.
So, me taking care of myself looks like me reading my Bible, maybe doing some research on something that I started the night before or the day before. And just making sure that I'm mentally prepared for the day. Because you leave your home, for some of us who, travel to the office or wherever we may go, to meet clients, we don't know what we're going to encounter.
Right.
So my best practice is to have that moment to myself. So if something happens and I have to pivot, I'm not panicking about it.
Right.
So, I get up, I do that, and then I start my day. So let's talk about getting into the middle of the week, right?
Right.
I have time restraints. I have to make dinner. I want it to be ready by the time my husband gets home.
Right.
I work from home 95% of the time. So
Hmm.
that's a plus. That's in my favor. But let's talk about when I'm double booked. Let's talk about when, I have a meeting on my calendar, but there's a fire that pops up and I
Right.
have to drop everything and run to it. And so I try to be, so when I have to be somewhere, I tend to show up early because I feel like early is on time
Exactly.
is late, right?
Right.
And so I'm waiting for the other person, right?
Hmm.
And so I'm just kind of making mental notes, or sometimes I'm just jotting some stuff down because I don't want to forget that I need to say a certain thing to this certain person.
Of course.
And then let's just say my boss pings me. It's like, Omika,
What's up?
I need to talk to you. And
Right.
so what I will usually do in that instance is I'll just send the person that I'm supposed to be meeting with, because I'm
Hmm.
early, a quick message and say, hey, something came up. I am
Right.
running late, but I will be with you.
I like that.
That's really how I do it,
Okay.
because, you know, my leader comes first, right?
Right.
So I want to make sure that I'm giving him my undivided attention, and I want to show the same respect to whoever I'm meeting with.
Of
Um,
course.
so I kind of like keep everybody in the loop, and then
Mhm.
once I'm done with him, it usually doesn't take long, right? We figure it out, we move on, and then I can go back to the person that I originally was meeting with, and then
Right.
sometimes at the same time, my husband's calling.
Right.
Husband's texting. So he knows, like, if I don't answer, I'll usually text and say I'm in a meeting.
Right.
And he'll say, "Oh, okay, I didn't want anything." But
Just
I
checking.
I anticipate that text because it could be something one day, right?
Right.
And so I'm just gonna say this for all for all my listeners. I know that we have our own businesses. I know that we have careers, but family comes first. Husbands, your wives come first. Wives, your husbands come first. So I haven't had to deal with that situation, but
Right.
I know if it presents itself. Yeah, I'm gonna have to talk to y'all later.
Yeah. Yeah.
I need take care of my husband. So,
Right.
um, in case anybody was wondering about that, you know, hierarchy,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
way.
Yeah. Of course. Of
Um,
course.
so I've been real quick on my feet.
Mhm.
When things come up, I'll give you another example. So last weekend,
Yes, ma'am.
I had the pleasure of attending a gala. And this
Right.
gala for my church here in Atlanta. We were celebrating our 16-year anniversary.
Nice.
And so on Friday, I'm working, but I'm only working till a certain time. So
Mhm.
that works out perfectly. I go, I get my hair done, I get my makeup done. And
Yeah.
then I get back home, I'm backing into my garage, I'm on the phone with my husband because he's running around trying to find something last minute,
Right.
and I go on Instagram, and the first thing I see is the event is postponed due
Wow.
to water main break.
Right.
I was like, when things happen like that, honestly, I say to myself, "God, thank you for whatever you're protecting me
Yeah.
from."
It's definitely for a reason. Definitely for a reason.
But in the back of my mind, I had wished that I had found out before I got my makeup done.
Yeah. 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 Of course. Of course.
But we were able to, we were able to pivot, and we were actually able to have the event on Sunday,
Nice.
which was a great success. But it was just a lesson in that whole thing. It didn't happen on that Friday because that's not when
It
God
wasn't
wanted it
supposed to.
to
Right. It
happen.
wasn't supposed to. Right.
And so some other things happen in that same arena, and we were able to have a better celebration because we reached a certain goal
Nice.
that we were chasing, right? And so that made the celebration all better. And as I sat in the room and I thought about it, and I said, this was all God because He wanted us to finish the race and then have a real reason to celebrate, or have
Nice.
a real reason to celebrate.
Nice.
I should say,
Nice. Nice.
yeah.
I
So,
love it. So you gave us two examples, and in both examples, I'm always listening, and I hope that our audience they're paying attention as well. But I picked up two or three nuggets, but one of the nuggets I got to go back to almost 4 minutes ago when you
mhm,
talked about sometimes you might have something scheduled, you're on the phone, or you have a phone appointment. This could be with a client, and then things come up, and then you have to pivot and navigate. I think that one of the things that helps that, because life is going to happen, right? Your husband or wife might be calling, somebody, another client might have something come
mhm,
up that's more important. And again, everybody feels that they're important, I get it, but something in the whole hierarchy of life
yes,
might come up that you have to shift, right? I think one of the things that helps that is your own personal brand, right? So let me go
yes,
deeper with that. So if you're working with a client and you're always late and you're always scrambling and you never have your stuff together, your deliverables are shoddy and always two or three, then that you've created a brand where they're like, you know what? I'm not even surprised that this person is going to cancel me,
exactly.
right? But if you do a good job of, arriving to where you need to arrive, 5 minutes earlier, showing up on that call on time, when things happen, that customer or that partner, that associate, that client, they're gonna be way more understanding. This got to be something emergency because you know what? Omeika ain't never late.
Always here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Cas is always on time. So
yeah,
I think part of that too in the pivot is making sure that now you have a brand and you have operationally, you have some things in place where that's it's going to be a norm for you to be on time. And if you're not on time, that other person must know that something's wrong because you're showing up on schedule, doing doing things right, right? So
Yeah.
the other thing that jumped out to me, and I got to go even 5 minutes back. This is at the beginning of when you started Omeika, when you talked about your daily routine. And again, this episode wasn't planned or scripted out, but we always vibe off of each other, and I think that's why I specifically like the show. We're
Mhm.
still creating it and it's still building, but I like the us bouncing off of each other. But one of the things that you talked about was having that daily routine, and for me, one thing I learned from you was making I personally have an opportunity to interject more of the Bible in. I do take the meditation time seriously. So I might wake up and I get in the zone. I try not to pick up my cell phone right away, but I try to, a lot of people call this different things. They might call it manifestation, they might call it meditation,
Uh-huh.
but I try to find time with myself and with God and try to plan out the day and just try to be settled
Yeah.
before the day even starts. And I think that's super important. But I got to unravel the thread a little bit. And this process starts for me on Sunday. So every Sunday night when I worked in corporate, Mondays were super difficult. And I think they were only difficult in my head. One of the things that stands out clearly to me why Monday was difficult was because we're in high performance sales. I mean, every widget, every number mattered.
Yeah.
So the weekends were big. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You had to come back to the boss, and I work remotely, so I only saw my boss in person maybe once a month. So these Monday calls, they happened at 9 o'clock and they were super important. So you couldn't come to the call with no shoddy numbers. And
Got
this kind of guaranteed that you're Johnny on the spot Friday with your team, Johnny on the spot Saturday, crushing it
Mhm.
Sunday, and just having a big weekend. So Sunday night for many, many years, I mean over 10 years, that was my time to plan out my whole week.
Gosh.
And I never stopped it. So that's when I'm checking my calendar. Like I'm super addicted to calendars, Outlook, Google Calendar, whatever. Like I manage my life by calendar.
Yes.
If
Mhm.
you and I have something going on and it's not on my calendar, no, that's not important. As soon as something is important, I'm putting it on my calendar because I'm human, so I'm gonna forget. But part of it is the programming from when I had this corporate job. And
Mhm.
I don't knock it at all. Like I love it so much that I've carried it into my current life. But yeah, every Sunday, like I'm planning out my entire week. I'm planning, what I have to do, what clients I have to meet with, date night if I have to. I'll talk to my wife and be like, hey, I plan on doing this. Is it okay? Not that we need permission. I think just out of
Out
respect,
of respect.
out
Mhm.
of respect, and you don't, if there are multiple things in the household that you're responsible for, if that's your life partner, like you just want to make sure that things are
That's
clear.
me.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
got to check in, right? When you come to a new city, you got to tap in with me. We're gonna talk about that in a second. I just saw a video that was so funny. But yeah, just checking in and making sure that everything is balanced, and that's also when you're gonna see empty slots where you could put stuff in. Some people are like, man, I wish there was like 25 hours in a day. I just don't have enough time. But the truth is, when you map out your calendar and look at it for the week, when you
Yeah.
talk about, man, I don't have time to play with the kids or I don't have time to go to the gym, you look at that calendar and if you see pockets, fill them in.
Fill
If
'em in.
if you have empty space on your calendar, it's truly a reflection of opportunities that you have in your life where you could be doing more.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
even if that means scheduling in rest time, I know it sounds crazy, but if you want to take a nap in a day, that's fine.
Oh, yeah.
Schedule it in, schedule it in, and make sure that your notifications are off, things are silent or whatever, and
Yeah.
take that time. But one of the things that I took from corporate that I love was making sure that I am respecting my calendar.
Yes.
And again, if I want to lose weight and I got to go to the gym, putting it on the calendar, making sure that Calendly doesn't interject with that. And obviously, you can move stuff around. It's not, there's some gray area. It's not black and white, but starting off the week solid, I think has been key to me. For you, starting off your day solid,
Yes.
key for you. And the two things, are married. The two things mirror each other because sometimes I'll do the calendar on Sunday and then Tuesday morning I check in and be like, okay, what's next? What's new?
Yes. Yes.
So yeah, I love that. I love it. No, thanks for sharing for sure, Omeika.
Welcome. Yes, I look at my calendar several times a
Yeah.
week, sometimes
Mhm.
several times a day
Hey,
because
yeah.
people will want to talk to me, and they know the only way they can actually talk to me is if they put a meeting on my calendar.
Calendar. Yep.
So I refresh it, I go back because I don't want to miss something, right?
Right.
Because apparently, if they're putting time on my calendar, it's
Yeah.
important.
It's important. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I love it. All right. So in pop culture news, a couple of things happened this week that like there's a funny story, and I always try to tie things back to business, and I'm sure it connects. But I want to talk about Mr. Corey Harris from Michigan. I'm sure you've seen Mr. Corey Omeika, and if you haven't, I'm gonna refresh your memory
Please
because
do.
maybe you don't know his name, but I know you've seen his face, his confused, bewildered face across social media. So this is the man in Michigan that was supposed to show up for his hearing, and his driver, oh Mika knows immediately, and he's so confused. He showed up for his case, and the case was for failing to have a valid driver's license, but he was in the car. He was in the car at the time on Zoom at
Mhm.
the time of the hearing, and this judge kind of shredded him, right? And I don't feel bad at all. But then there was a twist. Have you been following the twist, Omika? Yeah.
Yes.
So so
Yes.
there's multiple twists, but I'm gonna let you go for a second. So what are your thoughts on Mr. Corey before we get into the twist?
So when I saw the first vid, right?
Yeah.
When he was saying, I'm just give me like 1 second, like I'm pulling it,
Fine. Right.
I'm talking. And then so I said, okay, let me see where this is going.
Right.
And then the judge says, so, okay, what are we meeting about today? And then when the topic came up, I was like, oh,
Wow.
wow.
Right.
That was my initial reaction. That's why when you said it,
Yeah,
I
yeah. I know him by name. Like if I see him in the street, I'm gonna like be
like,
like Mr. Harris. Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
all I'm gonna say because I want you
Yeah,
to
yeah. Because there's
share,
multiple layers.
but
We're gonna take 5 minutes to peel the onion back.
yes.
So that was like major social media news for at least 2 days, maybe 2.5 days. He ended up going to jail that night, spent
Mhm.
2 nights in prison, then come to find out that there was a discrepancy and he truly did not have a suspended license. And the reason I'm telling the story is 'cause we're gonna link it back to social media, right? But in 2 days we came to find out that this man did not have a suspended license, and everything was again rewound, right? So he goes on a media frenzy talking about how he's been wronged, uh everything wrong with with the process, like everything was crazy. And you know what, social media is funny because it's easy when things are negative.
Oh
When
yeah.
things are negative, people will tear you down, but
Yes.
when things go the other way, you can't really you
It's
can't
always
rewind
an
it.
excuse.
Yeah, yeah, it's all done, like it's too late. So he did find some love there, but not as much love as the hate that he found when he was the bewildered, confused faces, like
Yeah.
what I keep remembering, right? So people were like, "Oh man, this man is wronged. Like somebody should advocate for him." So that's the second piece. You ready for the third piece?
I am so ready.
Did you hear the third piece?
Yes.
So the third piece, all along, this dude has never had a license to begin with. It's been like an emotional roller coaster for me. An emotion. So I went from saying this man is just crazy for being on camera. Then I felt bad for him. Then I'm back to oh no, like what?
Like what?
The ignorance.
What? That's okay. So
I'm
I
crying.
know I know you're seeing my hands waving
Yeah, yeah.
because I know you've seen the meme where there's this black guy. He's super funny. He's crying and he said, "Stop the tape. Just stop it."
I have
I
seen
just
it.
cannot.
I have seen it. I have seen it.
And so that's why I did that because in that moment, I'm like, just stop the tape.
Yeah.
This cannot be real.
Right.
Stop
Yeah.
it.
This it was a wild week.
It
A
was a
wild week. And there's a lesson here. Audience, I always try to bring it back to a lesson. But before I even jump into the lesson, the district attorney was going on him because they knew he was lying. Because in Michigan, you can only have two things. You have to have either a driver's license or a state ID.
Yes.
So he was acting confused, like he didn't even know he didn't have a license. But the
Right.
district attorney was like, "There's no way you didn't know because we caught you every year. You've been doing the ID, so
Yes.
you knew."
You knew.
Yeah, and I guess the point here, people, is if you're on social media, just be truthful, be honest. Like people, you
Yes.
will be found out. There is no investigator as intelligent, as crafty, as witty, right? As quick
It's quick.
as the internet investigators, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
even if they didn't find out, like somebody would have found out. Just be honest. So,
The shade room, somebody.
yeah, yeah, Shade Room. Oh, they're quick. Like they
Uh,
have between the Shade Room and TMZ, they'll
Yeah.
know before the news. They'll know before the news.
The thing that the thing that got to me was just how quickly this whole little thing unfolded. It was like an emotional roller coaster.
Yeah, literally, literally.
That's why I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
"Stop the tape."
yeah,
Once
yeah,
they
yeah.
got to the plot, the real plot, I
Yeah,
said,
yeah, that's too much. Yeah, and yeah, don't believe any the other so many lessons. Also, don't it's hard not to be invested in social media. So for me to say not don't get too invested, I know it's hard for me because I was invested in this man. And I at first I wanted him to go to jail, but then I wanted him to be advocated for it. And then I'm like, then I went back again. So like you said, emotional roller coaster for sure. But just know, just keep it honest, keep it real. If you're on camera, if you're on tape, just be honest.
just be honest.
Just be honest.
He literally went viral. And
Yeah.
there are paintings, there are memes,
Girls, yeah, everything.
all these types of things. And
Mhm.
for it to for us to find out what we found out, like, "Sir, you never had a valid driver's license
So what
to."
you fighting for? Right. And then you was on and you was talking about how you've been wronged.
It's like the audacity of
The
you.
audacity. If the audacity was a person, it would be him.
It would be him.
It would be him. So 2024 is definitely starting off wild for sure.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I love
Mhm.
it. I love it. I love it. I have nothing else in pop culture news other than Mr. Pat Sajak saying bye after many, 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 many moons.
So, yes. Did
Mhm.
you
Are you a
watch
fan?
Vanna White's video?
I did not. Educate me.
It was super emotional, like,
I'm
she
glad.
had to fight back tears, and she
Oh, wow.
talked about, all the years they worked together and how their
Right.
family and their kids have grown up together, and how it just won't be the same,
Right.
without him because she considered him to be like a brother to her,
Right. I see that.
definitely a friend, and I thought it was I thought it was a great video. She was very authentic because it's just interesting that these two individuals worked together for so long, and now he's like, "Yep, I'm throwing my hat.
I'm done. Yeah.
I'm done." And she's still going. She signed another contract.
Oh, wow.
So when things like that happen, people tend to not watch it because they're so used to the
That
success
duo.
of people. So
Right.
you
Mhm.
start bringing in new people, we don't want to get emotionally invested into this new person because
Right.
for what 30 something years
Yeah.
all
That's
we
all
knew
we know.
in Vanna,
Yeah.
right? And so so yesterday I was laying on the couch when I was supposed to be doing a podcast episode.
Right.
And I was on the phone with my sister and it was on TV, but I had the TV like kind of like on zero.
Low. Right.
And so I'm like, why is Pat doing all this talking? I had forgotten just that fast, okay?
Wow. Okay.
Why is he doing all this talk? And then my sister was like, "Oh yeah, he's retired." I was like, "Oh my god!" So then I turned it up, and and then he said his goodbyes, and then Vanna comes out, and she embraces him, and I just thought that it was just really like it was very touching, and just to I think that's one of the better ways to leave a career
Of
is on
course.
your own terms. He left on his own terms. He had a lot of great years. I'm sure he made a lot of money.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, it just won't be the same.
Right.
That's
Right. Right. Right.
my opinion.
Yeah. Like, so I might professionally disagree And I'm gonna only say that because I've thought that too, and I've seen it go the other way. And what I'm disagreeing with is it not being the same. And yes, it's not going to be the same for us.
Yeah.
Right. It's not going to be the same for us. So I agree with that. But
Mhm.
I have seen people leave and replacements come in. And because sometimes hosts, the people that we recognize they're almost like generational.
Yeah.
They're
Mm.
generational, right? I do think that there will be a new batch of fans that whoever replaces Pat Sajak, right?
Yeah,
Because like, all right, so my kids, they don't even know who Pat Sajak is.
exactly.
You know what I mean? They don't even know. So somebody could come in. I don't know who, but let's say it was oh man, I forgot his name that quick. I'm not even gonna take time to slow down. But let's say I'm just gonna throw a name out. So
Mhm.
let's say Dave Chappelle came in and
Mhm.
hosted Wheel of Fortune. It would be crazy to us for sure.
Mhm.
And the name I was thinking about was Wayne Brady.
Yes,
Um,
me too.
so let's go back to Wayne Brady because that
Yeah,
sounds a little more likely. Not to say
yeah.
that that's the thing, but he's done
He's
he's
been in
done
that arena.
day
Uh-huh.
shows. He's been in that arena. So let's say it was Wayne Brady, and if he does a good job, it's unfortunate, but in a year or two, people would forget Pat Sajak,
Exactly.
and I hate that. I really do because
Mhm.
legacy is so important. Here you have Pat Sajak, well over 30 years,
Yeah.
no blemishes that I know, no, especially through the Me Too movement, like even Bob Barker, people had
Yes.
dirt on their name, right? I've
Yes.
never heard anything bad about Pat Sajak.
Never.
The way he works with people, like even like Ellen DeGeneres, like you hear like nightmare stories. But
Yeah.
Pat has been super cool, but it's unfortunate that it's unfortunate and it's fortunate, and I'm very torn with this. That now you
Mhm.
can build up a legacy, but also in 2 years be forgotten, right? And only the history books and the videos will help your legacy be remembered. But somebody like a Wayne Brady could easily come in and start a new wave
Yes.
of fans for the next 30 years.
For the next generation.
Right. So not professionally disagreeing, but in regards to just like it'll never be the same. But you are right in saying that it will never be the same for me. Because I
Correct.
remember, my mom watching soap operas when we was kids, like in the daytime when we were growing up, and we used to get caught up into As the World Turns.
Turns. It was Young and the Restless for me.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, you know what? Both of them, because I
Yes.
think one came on right before, right?
Yes. Young and the
Young and
Restless
the
came
Restless.
on at
And,
11.
yeah, and it was I saw another meme, and it was like Victor Newman. I was like, how do I know Victor Newman? And I personally haven't watched that. Now, Victor Newman, I'm thinking is Young and Restless, right?
Yes.
I'm like, I haven't watched that show in maybe 30 years. Like I was a
My
kid.
sister still watches it.
Wow, I was a
Yeah.
kid. But that's the power of branding. Like doing the same things over and over again, showing up at the same
Yes.
time. We could create the same legacies and the same bond with our audiences just by
Yeah.
showing up,
Just
being
by
consistent, right?
showing.
Having something tied to our brand that's memorable.
Yes.
I think about Pat Sajak. I mentioned Wayne Brady. I mentioned Victor Newman. So even though Victor
Yeah.
is a fictional character, he's
Yeah.
branded. He's still branded,
Exactly. Everybody knows him as
right?
Victor Newman. And it's like how many times somebody
Yeah,
try to kill Victor
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
go to the next
Yeah,
season.
yeah, and his brand is,
Yes.
debonair. Sometimes, too much of a ladies' man, but like he carries himself well. And I
The
don't
man,
know this man in real life.
he
I
was
don't
the
know.
man. He was
Right,
the
he's the man.
man. He had the money. He had everything.
Right, right. But yeah, there's a lot to learn in personal branding from all three of those characters, even though one is not real. But yeah, we could take that with us. But yeah, I had to share that. I saw Pat say that leaving. I was like, I gotta bring that up to Omeika. But
Yeah.
that's all I got for social media news.
Yes.
Anything that I need to hear from in regards to what you're doing in business? Anything coming up?
So yeah, I'm working on a few things,
Okay.
keeping it under wraps.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely in the kitchen. I'm back in the lab. I know
I like that.
the last time we met,
Yeah.
I was talking about, just kind of being like burnt out and
Yeah,
things
yeah, yeah.
nature. And so just kind of like I remember saying that it was kind of like having like a creative writer's block.
Right. Let's talk about that.
I'm back. Okay, I am back
In the kitchen.
cooking, and it's like it's exactly what I said. It was the environment. And even though I'm in the same place physically, mentally,
Oh
I'm in
wow.
a different space.
Oh
So
wow.
I needed to kind of declutter
Okay.
things that was going on, right? And
Okay.
I had to reset or revisit my priorities.
I like
Because
that.
like you said, life be life,
Life be life. Yep.
happen, we get these little small fires, and
Right.
it was just everything was coming from different angles, and I just had to just really just get back to me.
Get back in it. I like that.
And so I just started this whole like self-care thing.
Oh really?
Um,
Okay.
and every day I showed up, and I invited my audience to join me, and I gave tips, and I
Nice.
encouraged people to continually put themselves first, practice self care. And so that has led me into financial self care.
Like
So
it.
that is what I am focusing on in my business. That is, it comes out of my mouth like every single day. It's in my emails, it's in my blogs, like everything. It's in my posts. And so um I'm inviting people to join me on this financial self-care journey, because what I thought about when I came out of this thing that I was
Mm-hmm. What
um
you in?
is that, yeah, we want to take care of our minds, we want to take care of our bodies, but who's taking care of our money? Who is taking care of our money? What
Hmm.
are we being good stewards of our money, of our financial being, right? So that has we can't it's kind of like dressing up, putting on makeup, getting your hair done, looking nice, but inside you're torn up,
Yeah.
right? We can't fix one thing and just leave our financial life or our financial journey a hot mess. We can't do that.
Right.
So that was just one thing that God dropped in my spirit, and he was like, "Okay, like you're good at getting back to you,
Right.
but how are you going to help them not only get back to them, but how are you going to help teach them become great stewards of their finances?" So
I love it.
that's where we are.
Okay, awesome, awesome, man. For me, I've also been in somewhat of a cloudy space. I have no problems creating content. You know that, like, I love it. Like, content is my thing. But recently, I pivoted and I'm doing more real estate. I haven't really put it out to the world yet, but I can put it on this podcast because I know it's just a small part of our audience that listens.
Mhm.
Where I recently got my real estate license, and as a coach and as a strategist, like one of my own rules is that you can't mix audiences, right? The
Correct.
people that follow you in certain places follow you for a certain reason, and even when you pivot, if you do a major pivot, people it's natural that people will drop off or not be
Yeah.
as interested,
Yeah.
because they're only following you for a certain thing. And I see that. So where I've been struggling, and I think this is the first time I'm saying it out loud, like on a public forum, is I have multiple outlets, but people know me for this one thing, right?
Yeah.
And I've been in the past month, my posting has gone down, not for the same reasons of Omika, but more because I care about my audience. And if they see me doing this one thing and all of a sudden I'm doing this other thing, I
Yes.
wouldn't be surprised if they were like, "What is Kaz doing?" Because again, I preach that. That's part of
Yes.
my strategy. Is like, hey,
Yes.
respect your audience. Respect your audience. So I think I'm finally coming around to what I need to do, and now you guys will see something come real soon that, or you know what, or you won't see it come real soon, right? Because it's so, I'm going to get better at just compartmentalizing.
Mhm.
And I've been trying to figure out how to do it. And here's the thing, I don't know. So I'm going to do it,
Yeah.
see how it rolls for 6 months. And if I have to pivot again, pivot again.
We are.
But I think I know what I want to do. And for Instagram, I think I'm just going to focus on my personal brand, throw the real estate stuff, keep it in YouTube, and for LinkedIn,
Mhm.
focus on my video business, my video marketing business, and
Yes.
just keep the three things in three different pockets. And I think we should be okay.
Thank
The other thing that I love that I got to say about this particular podcast is that I'm using it as an accountability tool. So right now, you guys don't see any bruises on my face, and um, I seem physically okay, but I'm not because Omeika's been beating me up. She
you.
wants me to put these. She want me to put these episodes on YouTube, and I've made promises, and I've dropped the ball. So to Omeika and the audience, these episodes will be coming to YouTube. I promise you, real soon.
Yay.
We have all. I just got to do it, right? So, like I said, I like using this outlet as personal accountability as well. So,
Mhm.
audience and Omeika, if you've been missing these, or if you want to catch these episodes in a more, I guess, streamlined way, where if you
Yes.
miss an episode or whatever, right now it's only on LinkedIn. But we have all the episodes and we're ready to go. This is episode 4. So, Omeika and audience, coming soon. I promise you. Thank you. All right.
Yes.
So let's close out. Oh, what are your thoughts on that before we close out? You okay with that, Omeika? Thank you for being
I
patient.
yes, I am okay. I was just,
Kicking
sometimes
it.
we have to check in with each other, say, "Hey, what's going on, friend?
Right, 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 right.
What you sent me
Yeah,
yesterday? Everything okay?"
right,
I
right,
make sure that everything was okay
right,
because
right, right.
you know we have to that's one of the main reasons why we started this partnership,
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
was to hold each other accountable,
Hmm.
and bring this thing to the next level. So we have to stay true to our word and true to ourselves. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I believe part of accountability is usually being self accountable, and
Yeah,
sometimes checking yourself before your partner has to check you. So,
absolutely.
yeah, I'm checking myself. All right, folks. Thanks for tapping in. This show has been shorter than normal, but still packed with lots of goodies. It's been Cas and Omeika. We've just been kicking it, and we're looking forward to seeing you next time. Till now, peace.
Peace.